So there's something that I've heard come up in the conversations around the, different platform users. Now, again, as much as I'll say things like Xbox fanboy, PlayStation fanboy, I recognize that people take pride in the platforms that they play on. I take pride in the fact that I play on whichever platforms the games are on, but I mainly play on PC. Secondly, I play on the PlayStation. That's where I was playing before I actually went to PC. And Xbox is actually the new adoption for me. I finally bought my very first Xbox console and kept it just in the last few years when the Series X came out. And I bought it because it has the opportunity to allow for you to have a development kit in your home. So say, for instance, right now, me and, a couple of gentlemen that are developers are working on a little game prototype. And in order for us to be able to test, this prototype on console, we can just literally convert our Xbox Series X into a development kit without having to wait for, Xbox to send us one of those after all approvals and applications have gone through. It's still a long process to get there, but they'll have to give you the SDK for Unreal Engine and so on and so forth. So I thought, why not buy a machine that can actually fulfill that purpose? And then at the same time, I can explore the ecosystem. What I wanted to go ahead and point out in this video is I've heard some people say things like, well, most PC players are disgruntled Xbox fans who left the Xbox platform because they were disappointed at what Xbox was doing. Now, I'm quite curious as to why this is a conclusion that they've drawn, because for most of them, a lot of their arguments are coming from places along the lines of, say, maybe even the criticisms, or I guess maybe the comparisons of the Xbox, of the PlayStation 5 Pro. Like I saw a content creator just, the other day say that one of the reasons a lot of folk on the PC side are, in a sense, upset with the PlayStation 5 Pro, which I don't think they are. I think what they're watching is basically the irony of how expensive the hardware is for how little it does. That's what they're pointing out. And we pointed out as well, even on the PC side, by the way. And they said it's because they're jealous. And that's because when you look at the Steam hardware survey, which is basically what tells you the most amount of hardware that's being used in on the Steam platform, that shows you that the kind of hardware that these people have is, low tier hardware that's lower than the PlayStation 5. And this is why PC players are actually saying this. And most of them, and this is another argument, are disgruntled Xbox fans. Now, this is very interesting because, number one, I haven't necessarily seen a lot of Xbox players move to the PC platform. I mean, that based on the fact that they're upset with Xbox, because most of them are aware that what they'll do is basically replicate the exact same ecosystem to some extent if they did that. I mean, the PC is actually nicknamed the Xbox Super Series X because it's built mostly, or it's generally used mostly on a Microsoft platform, which is Windows and so on and so forth. And your Xbox library, if you have one, you can mostly enjoy on the PC as well as the Xbox because it has Play Anywhere. And if you're subscribed to Game Pass, which, majority of the Xbox players that I speak to or actually talk on the channel, then you can actually use Game Pass Ultimate to be able to actually manage and play your games across both platforms. So maybe they're moving to PC to just add to their experience, but I don't think disgruntled is the way I'd call them. If anything, most disgruntled Xbox fans usually will go to PlayStation because they want to play those PlayStation games, or they were looking to play those PlayStation games that came out in the last few years, day one. It wasn't even until more recently that we started seeing a lot of these games shift into the PC platform. So again, I think that's a deflection of what's going on in terms of the gaming market that a lot of PlayStation fanboys try to use to discredit anybody who's actually pointing out a lot of the flaws that PlayStation has. And they'll use all kinds of different ad hominems, or they'll throw out maybe personal attacks. So what I wanted to do today is I wanted to point out this whole hardware thing with the PlayStation 5 and put it in context, because I heard somebody say that it is because of jealousy and the fact that most PC players are using an RTX 3060 or a 1650, which is actually a much less powerful GPU than is in the PlayStation 5 and PS5 Pro. And that's why they're all saying that the PS5 Pro is not worth the price. I don't think that is a very true categorization, simply because if you think about the reason a lot of people are using these hardware pieces is simply because they're affordable. Most PC players do not want to spend a lot of money, nor have a lot of money that they want to throw out there. And if anybody thinks spending a bunch of money on hardware is a flex, then I don't know. Maybe you might need to take a personal financial literacy class. That's just one way of actually putting it. Another thing, too, is based on this hardware data, a lot of developers actually go ahead and optimize their games to be able to at least run on hardware that is just like that, which is the majority of hardware being used. So, for instance, even Monster Hunter Wilds, with its wild PC requirements, is still coming to the GTX 1660 as a minimum GPU that you can use, because they know that if they do not optimize their game to actually follow this particular paradigm, or use GPUs that are close to it, they're going to miss out on a lot of business. So when I see these comparisons from a lot of folk who are defending or talking about the PlayStation 5 Pro, I strongly believe that you're not looking at the data from a very good context. Trust me, no one is jealous of you paying for PlayStation Plus or online fees, or no one is jealous of you paying more money for the games that you play. No, on PC you don't pay those fees, and you also have access to cheaper games, especially brand new games at launch. The second side is, right now, when anybody even talks about Xbox's position in the market and the fact that they actually have a lot more games coming from PlayStation, and it's not because Xbox suddenly started to churn out games, it's because they just went and acquired Activision and also acquired Bethesda. So by default, their game output is already going to be high. It doesn't matter what PlayStation tries to do unless they can already get established publishers that were all about the churning out of games and and so on and so forth. It's not really going to change anything in that regard, if you get what I mean, right? And whenever you say stuff like this and point it out, because it's actually a material fact, you can't say Bethesda doesn't have A, B, C, D, E, F, G games coming out, or Activision doesn't have A, B, C, D, E, F, G games coming out. When you count them and then count the Xbox Studios games, you'll realize that PlayStation is actually only doing heavy lifting in the hardware side, but in the software side, they're not going to be able to keep up with Xbox. And if you think about it, somebody will come out and say something along the lines of, when you're churning out hot garbage, it's pretty easy to frequently release. The fun part is, it's not the Xbox games you're actually pointing at. You might be pointing at the Bethesda games as hot garbage, of which that would be something that you would have to, strongly defend in a real debate, where people will probably ask you and say, what are you talking about hot garbage? Because these are games that you probably don't want to play. And so it's easy for you, instead of saying, well, okay, there seems to be a content deficit here, you use the hot garbage excuse in order for you to go ahead and, minimize it. But the age of minimization is gone. After PlayStation sold a $700 console with very minimal performance and sold a $1,000 special edition bundle, I think everybody now can see that the new generation of hardware overall is exactly as I've been saying for years, that it's overhyped and basically it underdelivers. And that's just a reality. There's just no other way to actually point to it. And this generation by itself overall has not been impressive. Not been as impressive as the PS4 generation and the PlayStation side. And for some who played on Xbox, who've been telling me this, because I didn't play on Xbox much on the 360 days. I think I played the Arkham games and I played my soccer games. They swear that the 360 days, Microsoft was balling at that time. But this Xbox Series days and even the PlayStation 5 days are quite interesting. And we're this far into the, generation. However, it seems like that's because Microsoft and Xbox have been taking a very interesting approach, and PlayStation is in a position where money is not falling from trees, if you get what I mean. Like, everything has become very expensive. It's almost like a perfect storm now, because Activision went ahead and sold off to Xbox, and pretty much PlayStation lost its golden goose. So now it's having to pivot in some aspects of its own business strategy, because a major part of its income stream has changed. In fact, not just a major part, but significant parts of its income stream has changed, and its strategy had to pretty much change, like going to PC and all of these things, to be able to compensate. So these changes in the industry are very interesting and they're very important. And as PC continues to be a platform that grows, which regardless of how you want to put it, it crosses the mind of a lot of people who are actually, thinking about taking their gaming to a different level. I think what we're going to see is these particular, platform holders, PlayStation and Xbox, basically both of them being third party, are going to have to really either provide what I think is unmatched service, like what Steam is doing. Xbox is already getting close. Believe you me, Xbox is literally the Steam of the, the console platform. No doubt about that. With all the things that they provide, it's insane how good that platform is. And PlayStation is just yet to catch up. And eventually, all of the fawning is going to wane from the PlayStation fans, like myself, like it did a few years ago. And I think they're going to eventually see, okay, this is not the PlayStation that we would like to engage with and give our money to, because PlayStation is just sorely lacking in, customer-centric approaches in the way they do things. Thanks for watching the video. Appreciate you guys' time and audience. Hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Peace out.